A united African continent has been the vision and drives for a couple of great African leaders in the past. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah has in the past aimed for a united African front that could benefit immensely from each other in oneness, drawing inspiration from advanced science and technology to engage collaborations that would foster harmony, boost the economies and consequently eradicate poverty. Growing cooperation in continental commerce, as well as flexible border and port agreements have rendered the need for a network that would facilitate access to inaccessible areas whilst optimizing travel time. According to the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the African continent has enjoyed a 52% trade boost to about $35 billion in 5 years through the easing of stringent border controls and a drop in the cost of tolls and duties. With the introduction of the most comprehensive global market in the continental free trade area across the African Union, the continent is adamant in its optimism of a positive turnaround. The apparent hike in commerce and economic operations have propelled a worthwhile investment in road and rail network as well as other imperative infrastructures to enhance continental cooperation. Although it is uncompleted, the ambitious Trans-African Highway has been identified as a tenable solution amid others with substantial capacity to drive this cause. The massive intercontinental infrastructure has been flirted around with for over half a century with the hope of it being completed someday. Conceived in the year 1971 by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, it was visualized to stretch out across the African continent spanning a collective 56,683-kilometer road network, segmented into 9 major highways. The Trans-African Highway project envelops the construction and management of a series of roads and highways across the African continent. Sometimes referred to as the Trans-African Corridors, the infrastructure is a 56,683 kilometers lengthy corridor that serves 9 links and is being fashioned by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the African Development Bank, and the African Union in an alliance with regional international communities. The 9 highway links have been sorted into a group of 6 major east-west corridors and 3 north-south routes, although a 4th link north-south of the continent has been forged by boundaries of 2 eastern-west courses. Our video today will look into all the 9 highway scheme, the progress so far with each project and the countries being connected. As always, make sure to like the video and also subscribe to our channel if you're new here. So without much delays, here are the Trans-African highways set to unite and bring the African continent stronger together. Trans-African Highway 1, Cairo to Dakar Highway. The Cairo to Dakar Highway links the Trans-African Highway 7, also known as the Dakar to Lagos Highway, to create an additional north-south pathway around the continent's western outline. It travels along the Mediterranean coast of North Africa, threading from Dakar to Algiers through Rabat, and then across Tunis, Tripoli, and finally Cairo. The 8,636 kilometers coastal trip is currently sufficiently complete and operational, even with the closed Algerian and Moroccan borders. A patchy few kilometers on the border between Morocco's Western Sahara and Mauritania only have desert tracks, even though the now Adhibou to Nouakchott road had been tarred way back in 2005. Trans-African Highway 2, Algiers to Lagos Highway. The Trans-African Highway 2 traverses across from Algiers, running through the Tamanrasset province in southern all the way to Lagos down south. Preconceived beyond the mid-60s, it wasn't till the 1970s before the construction of segments of the Sahara began, rendering the Algiers to Lagos corridor one of the oldest on the continent. The Trans-Sahara Highway is also one of the most complete highway networks of the project, with only about 200 kilometers of untarred desert track left, although border control is uncompromising on its use. The central region proves a challenge, however, and implores strict measures and vehicle specifications to enhance safety against a harsh desert environment and climate. Trans-African Highway 3, Tripoli, Windhoek to Cape Town Highway. This route runs a latitudinal course from Tripoli, across Libya to the capital and largest city of Chad, N'Djamena, and then through Brazzaville and Kinshasa to Windhoek, and finally to Cape Town, South Africa, which was initially exempted because the project was planned during the apartheid reign. It is intended as an alternate link to Cairo-Cape Town Transnational Highway to network the northern and southern African regions. This north-south highway covers a total of about 10,808 kilometers, however it is necessary for modifications to be implemented as it is the corridor with the highest number of missing roads. Evidently, only national links across Libya, Cameroon, Angola, Namibia, and South Africa are significantly operational. Trans-African Highway 4, Cairo, Gaborone to Cape Town Highway. This 10,228-kilometer corridor traverses the length of the African continent, spanning out from Cairo in Egypt, across Sudan's Khartoum and Addis Ababa in Ethiopia all the way through Nairobi, Kenya, to the capital city of Zimbabwe, Harare, and finally ends in Cape Town, South Africa. It is an auxiliary course to get to South Africa from the northern part of the continent. The Egypt-Sudan border is now accessible by road via the Kastel-Ashkeet border post. The Ethiopian link is a tarred lane, but runs across mountainous areas, making it hazardous to meander. Up north in Kenya, the paved highway in Nairobi cuts across the Lagos to Mombasa Highway. In documents, the Trans-African Highway 5 is also known as Cairo to Gaborone Highway or Cairo to Pretoria Highway, but since the course goes through the southeastern Botswana, this name can be discounted. Trans-African Highway 5, Dakar to N'Djamena Highway. The Trans-Sahelian Highway runs laterally along with 7 nations and 5 capitals in West and East Africa with a common climate and ambience. It is projected to reduce stringent border restrictions to foster trade and maintain the cultural harmony that has existed for centuries. The 4,500-kilometer highway extends from Dakar through Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Nigeria to the furthest northern point of Cameroon and ends within the western border of Chad's capital, N'Djamena. The structure has been substantially completed to about 80%, except for a few kilometers, approximately 775 kilometers, typically in and around western Mali, that requires imperative modifications even as other sections are currently under construction. The Trans-Sahelian Highway represents one of the 2 east to west links of the project, traveling parallel to the Trans-West African Coastal Highway at a 900 km interval. The course often engages existing highway routes across nations, however the construction of an optional link between Senegal and Mali is deemed necessary. Trans-African Highway 6, N'Djamena to Djibouti Highway. This 4,219 km highway redirects the Trans-Sahelian corridor right from N'Djamena all the way to Djibouti's port on the Indian Ocean, forming a combined 8,715 km west-east link from Dakar. The N'Djamena-Djibouti highway along with the Trans-Sahelian corridor was schemed to emulate original routes visualized in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by the French Empire. It picks its source in N'Djamena and transects to the Djibouti, going through Darfur in Sudan and across the north of Ethiopia. It consists of a little below 50% of paved roads with noteworthy sectors in despicable conditions. The region between the Sudan-Chad border presents hazardous road sections whose operations are halted, whilst Ethiopia's highland terrain provides significant challenges for highway constructors and engineers. Trans-African Highway 7, Dakar to Lagos Highway. The Trans-West African Coastal Highway runs across a series of West African coastal countries, emerging from Mauritania, in the northern part of West Africa just above Dakar to Nigeria. The highway arcs about the western extremity of the continent, running through Dakar, Banjul, Bissau, Conakry, Freetown, and Monrovia, to Nigeria across coastal capitals, such as the economical capital of Ivory Coast, Abidjan, Accra, Lomé, and Cotonou, a large port city on the south coast of Benin. According to African Union documents, the route is 4,560 kilometers in length, with 3,777 kilometers paved, which makes up about 83% of the total length. African Development Bank on the other hand dimensions the highway as 4,010 kilometers with a 3,260 kilometers tarred link, excluding the 570 kilometers Nouakchott-Dakar stretch. With the exception of a few short 4-lane highways in the eastern third of the route, all highways are 2 lanes. African Development Bank reports 32% of the highway to be substandard, with 9% in good condition and 59% in fair condition. Trans-African Highway 8, Lagos to Mombasa Highway. This transnational highway fuses with the Trans-West African Highway at Lagos and routes all the way to the coastal city of Mombasa in southeastern Kenya along the Indian Ocean, forming the longest west-east network on the African continent at a total distance of 10,269 kilometers. This course serves as the major link from the western part of the continent to the east, cutting through the capital of Cameroon, from Lagos, across Bangui in Central African Republic, and Kampala in Uganda to Mombasa, Kenya. The transcontinental channel is not a practical route between west and east at the moment because the central section across the Democratic Republic of the Congo only tracks, which become unnavigable after heavy rain, even though the highway is heavily commuted in Nigeria, Cameroon, Uganda, and Kenya. Road engineers face significant challenges due to the presence of dense rainforest and the need for frequent river crossings. Because there are no easy alternatives, east-west trade is forced to travel by air or sea and as a result is severely restricted. Trans-African Highway 9, Beira to Lobito Highway. The Beira to Lobito Highway spans a length of about 3,523 kilometers that travels from Lobito, Angola, and intersects with the Tripoli to Cape Town Highway, which is the Trans-African Highway 3. It continues across Lusaka, Zambia's capital, through Harare and finally Beira in Mozambique. It is mostly finished in the southeastern half, where it uses paved national roads in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique, but the western half, through most of Angola and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is made up of earth tracks or formerly paved roads that need to be rebuilt. The Southern African Development Community have established operational highway options such as the Trans-Kalahari Corridor and Maputo Corridor from Namibia's port of Walvis Bay, as well as the Botswana and South Africa to Maputo in southern Mozambique further south. Regional international communities such as the Arab Maghreb Union, Economic Community of West African States, and the Southern African Development Community have been essential with their involvement in the development of trans-African highways, liaising strongly with the African Development Bank and United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. For instance, the Trans-African Highway 1 from Tripoli to Nouakchott is developed and maintained by the Arab Maghreb Union, while Trans-African Highway 5 and 7 are developed and maintained by the Economic Community of West African States. In southern Africa, the Southern African Development Community has a vast network of road projects and trade corridors. Trans-African Highway 9 and the southern sectors of Trans-African Highway 3 and 4 are connected by regional highways built by Southern African Development Community or its predecessors. The Southern African Development Community in particular is in charge of managing road and rail corridors connecting landlocked areas to ports. So there you have it. Those are the 9 ambitious highway network set to connect and unite the African continent. The Trans-Africa Highway project is meant to increase trade through built and maintained infrastructure and more harmonious customs procedures. Currently, it is estimated that, in Africa, it costs between 50% and 175% more to transport goods from the site of production than anywhere else in the world. A fully developed, continent-wide road system would increase trade and movement among Africans and also aid African food security and lower cost. If you enjoyed this video and want more definitive information about trends and mega projects in Africa, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new channel, The New Africa Daily, for your daily dose of viral and trending topics in Africa within minutes.